Anybody, anywhere,
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen.
This pass caught by Paulsen, the tight end.
And from 106.7 The Fan, Grant Paulsen.
A brand new week of Take Command, and we are just a week and a half away from the NFL draft next Thursday, which means mock draft 3.0 today. We're also going to dive a little deeper than just our mock top sevens, getting you through Washington's pick. We're going to take our best guesses at who could be available and what picks look like for Washington, both at 71, which we've taken a stab at before, and 147, deeper to the draft, which we have not done yet. So all of that coming up on this podcast with Logan Paulsen, who spent a decade in the NFL. I'm Grant Paulsen. You can listen to me on 106.7 The Fan. Watch this show wherever you watch your YouTube clips, 106.7 Team 980 channels, and listen to this podcast wherever you get your audio. Logan, we're a week and a half away. It was funny, hope springs eternal. Dreams are beginning. All of these guys are going to have their dreams fulfilled. And yet we were sitting here talking before the show, and you were regaling us with some of your favorite tales of being released over the years in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what got us on that topic, but yeah, I was just thinking back. I've had some kind of ironic ones, some funny ones. Just it's funny what they make you do in the league, and I don't know, man. And I told you I had a dream that I got cut the other day. Like, just a lot of trauma associated with my time playing the NFL.
I would say you got to tell the most awkward place you've ever been while being released was.
I was in the shower in Atlanta, so I got my workout in the morning. It's cut day, so I'd come in. I'm going to do my normal process. I'm in the shower. I'm like kind of, scrubbing under my armpits, and all of a sudden someone's like, "Hey, Paulsen," and I'm like, "Who the heck is talking to me?" I look over, and it's a scout, and he's got his, his golf pants on, the stretchy golf pants with the tight shirt buttoned up. Says a little Falcons belts on. He goes, "Hey man, you need to grab your iPad and go see Coach Quinn." And I was like, bro, like there's one way out of this shower. Like, you could have just waited right there and grabbed me on the way out. Like, you didn't need to come in here and get me. So that was a pretty awkward spot. I was cut at my.
Is this like a big communal shower where he's looking at you naked, or is this like there's
that's 100% how it is. It wasn't like there were doors. It was like big open space. And then this dude's standing there and he's like, "Just grab your stuff." And I was like, "Great. Love that."
Is there any chance when he says that you're not getting cut?
Oh no, there's if that's like that is like the thing. If they're like, "Hey man, grab your iPad," they're not saying, and it's not go to IT.
It used to be bring your playbook. Now it's grab your iPad.
Grab your iPad. We're gonna go talk to Coach Quinn real quick. You're like, nice, love that, really stoked. The other one that was really tough was I was doing an event at my son's preschool, like to come talk about what it meant to play in the NFL. And as I was literally opening the door to walk in, I'm getting ready to meet people. I get a call from John Lynch, and it's like, "Hey man, grab that playbook. We'll see you in an hour. We're going to cut you." And I was like, God bless. So that one was pretty tough too, for a different reason.
I'm going into class right now, career day, to tell all these kids about how great the NFL is. Can I come in after that?
Yeah, can I come in right after that? And then I remember my wife, as I told my wife, obviously, as we're walking in, she's with me. And we were just like, I was just staring at her the whole time. And I just like, yeah. And I just couldn't get mentally past. So all these little kids are staring at me. And I couldn't speak. I just was like so flummoxed by the whole thing. And I kind of threw some stuff out there. And I was like, I looked at my wife after. I was like, "How was it?" She was like, "You could tell you were obviously a little bit shook up." And I was like, "Well, that's fair." And so
it was this scene out of Billy Madison.
Yeah, just
he's like grabbing the little kid's cheeks. He's telling them how terrible everything is, and like, why even try? You're just like, and these kids are like, "Is it amazing? What's the NFL like, Logan?" And you're like, "It's the worst, and you don't want to go. They'll crush your dreams over and over and over again." And like,
it was borderline. It was kind of in that.
I'm trying to. It might not be Billy Madison, but I'm thinking like when.
What is that one? There's something like that. Happy Gilmore, maybe. It was one of those Adam Sandler movies.
Someone's like got bad news and angry. I'm thinking Billy Madison when he's grabbing his cheeks and he's like, "Stay in school. Yeah. Stay as long as you can." But that's perfect. Well, anyway, let's have happier times. Let's have better dreams.
Yeah.
Watch some videos of puppies before we go to sleep tomorrow or something.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. Yeah, decompress a little bit. You know what I mean?
Exactly. All right, let's go mock top 7, 3.0 here. So rather than you and I mocking our way through this, because we've done that a couple times, I actually wanted to simulate a mock draft on one of my favorite sites. So this is PFSN, the Pro Football Network mock draft. And so we'll just read and react to what they did until we get to pick 7. All right. So not surprisingly, Fernando Mendoza goes 1 to the Raiders. We talked recently about the fact that they signed Kirk Cousins, what that is going to look like and how quickly he could get on the field. I mean, real quick on Mendoza, I would ask you this. How sold are you on him as like a big time legit NFL quarterback?
So I'm doing quarterbacks this week, actually, for the show Drive to the Draft next week, and just starting to watch. And obviously, dude is talented, right? He's got the arm talent, he's got the size, he's got the frame. I have a lot of issue like with the offense, just stylistically, like what they do. I think it's really easy. I don't want to say that, but it's very simple for him. It's a lot of RPO, a lot of first read throws. There's not a lot of stuff over the middle of the field. But I guess when you compare him to the rest of the quarterbacks, like it's not even close. You know, I think people want to talk about Ty Simpson. And I think Ty Simpson early in the year, because again, I've watched Jeremy Bernard, I've watched Caden Proctor, watched the running back. So I've got a feel for like the offense. Ty Simpson early in the year was pretty good, you know, like NFL stuff over the middle of the field, throwing guys open, doing the whole thing. I think the thing for me is what was the last 6 games, whatever it was, like that November run, he looked rough. And so like, I know he was sick. He had some gastroenteritis and all that kind of stuff and an oblique injury, but I can't get past like how the drop off that he saw there. And so I think for me, if you're looking for a quarterback, it's Fernando Mendoza. I think he does warrant that pick because of the physical talent. But again, I do have some reservations about the offense he was in and the system that he was executing.
41 touchdowns, 6 picks this past season, won a national championship, won the Heisman. I also think he's a little more athletic than he gets credit for. 276 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns this past season. And obviously in the playoffs, he was pretty dynamite. When you look at, 8 touchdowns and no picks, Alabama, Oregon, as he kind of ripped through those playoff games. Much more pedestrian against Miami, 16 of 27 for $186. Did rush for a touchdown in a pretty heroic moment in that game. That gets us to pick 2 on our mock 3.0 here. And again, this is just the robots here. This is the AI. This is the simulation. But off the board a little bit. This is not something you see a lot. The Jets go Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State. So we've heard so much about an edge. I think more likely that's either Reese or Bailey. But here they go Styles and the edges get pushed down a spot.
Yeah, so this is not outside the realm of possibility, I don't think, because again, you and I both really like Sonny Styles. Like yesterday on your show, the Grant and Danny show, we talked about how there's the planet theory. There's only a couple guys on God's green earth that can move and run the way that Sonny Styles can, the way that Arvell Reese can. I do think that this is a possibility. I don't think it's likely. I just think the more, based on the trade moves the Jets have had this offseason, to me, it's screaming edge. And I think when you look at the talent of that pool at edge, I think Bailey, Reese, I think are definitely in play there. But if they want Sonny Styles, I think it kind of fits. Again, it aligns with kind of this idea that there's only a couple of freak athletes that we can take in the top 5, and Sonny Styles is one of them.
Styles 2 to the New York Jets, which brings up the Arizona Cardinals at pick 3. And this is where the first edge goes. This is actually growing a lot of momentum. Even if the Jets do go edge, you've seen now more recently a lot of people linking the Cardinals to the other of the edges. Essentially, the Jets would make the pick for them, and then both David Bailey and Arvell Reese in some order would go. But in this mock 3.0 here, as we get you closer to Washington at 7, Arizona takes the first of the 2 edges, and they go with the more statistically productive of the 2, David Bailey from Texas Tech, who has the traits as well. If you're looking at testing and comparisons, it's an 89th percentile hand size, 77th percentile arm length, 96th percentile 40, 97th percentile broad jump. And then you add to the 6'3" and 5'8" and the 251 pounds, 14 and a half sacks and almost 20 TFLs last year.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's, I don't know, like you and me both. I think we have big man crush on David Bailey because of the production, because of how he rushes. Like he's got the feel, right? And I know there are some people, I was listening to a podcast the other day where they said, oh, they don't think he's a top 5 player. I think that's an insane take personally, right? I think he is definitively the best 5 players in this draft. So to me, the Arizona thing, taking an edge, I think is starting to make more sense to me because I didn't realize that they had retained their previous defensive coordinator. So it is that Nick Gannon. Is that who was the head coach last year? It's his defense. And so again, they run a 3-4 base. When you talk about 3-4 outside linebacker, I look at David Bailey. I think he fits that perfectly. When you watch him drop at the combine, looks very smooth, right? Yeah, Nick Rails, the new DC or the retained DC there is running the previous defense. So I think that's exactly right. Fits well, personnel wise, gives you the juice. The edge thing to me is starting to heat up there for Arizona.
Yeah, they bring in Mike LaFleur, Matt's little brother, who of course you played for. Still the GM Monty Ossenfort calling the shots in the draft. Nathaniel Hackett is their new OC, who was with Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, now with his brother Mike here. And then Nick Rails, the defensive coordinator, is the holdover, to your point, for Arizona. One thing I'll say, too, about the edge position in David Bailey here is I've seen a lot of people dinging him more recently about the quality of the defense around him and the fact that they were number one in America in so many categories and like they recruited 11 different starters. And it's just odd to me that you hear that about him sometimes, but I don't hear that about the Ohio State guys. I don't hear that about the Miami guys. Like Ruben Bain had Mesidor on the same defensive line, probably helped him a little bit and vice versa. Those guys are going to go pretty well in this first round. Ohio State was, I think, one of the best defenses I've seen in college football in 5 years. Over the last couple of seasons. And that's Styles and Downs and Reese. And I mean, they might have 4 guys going round one from that defense, right? I don't know why that would be a take about David Bailey, as if like, well, some of his production was based on the talent around him. Yeah, I would say that's the case with a lot of defensive players. And no one's expected him to have 14 and a half sacks in year one in the NFL either. Like it's going to be a bit of a process. But I also think you see some moves, some like diversification of an idea of what he's doing as a rusher. I don't think he's just kind of out athleticing people, if you will. Like he's actually making some things happen with his hands. I just like the way he rushes.
No, I think he's a craftsman. I think that's the thing that gets you excited. And again, it's something people aren't talking about, in my opinion, but you see the long arm, you see the speed to power, you see the spin move, you see the ghost move. Like he's got a deep bag of pass rush moves, and I think he's got a really good innate feel of when to use them. I've coached edge rushers before, and that is one of the hardest things to coach is the rhythm and timing of the rush. And David Bailey just has a fantastic feel for it. And that's something you can coach, obviously, but he's got it in the bag already. And again, will it take time to kind of develop and cultivate that and make that work at the NFL level? Sure. But I have a very high confidence because of, again, the diversification, the variety that he brings. You can't pigeonhole him. I think he's going to be a very productive pro.
Mock Draft 3.0, Take Command, Logan Paulsen and Grant Paulsen. That brings us to pick number 4 in this mock draft right now. And at pick number 4, the Tennessee Titans, I think, sprint the card up to the podium here. But Arvell Reese is the selection in this simulation. They would love an edge. You've seen Bailey link to them a bunch. You've seen Styles fall to them as an off-ball linebacker. But the highest ceiling rusher in this class, not in terms of now, but the future, is Arvell Reese. 6.5 sacks, a couple passes defended, 10 TFLs last year, playing primarily off the ball at the second level. But there was a stretch there when he really started to be used as a pass rusher in October, playing against Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Penn State, where he had at least a sack in 4 straight games, had at least an additional TFL in 3 of those 4 games, and he was living in the backfield. I think that's the tape a lot of the people are watching to feel good about Arvell Reese's future as a top 5 type pick.
Yeah, and again, he is a special mover. He's a special athlete, and I think you're just betting on those traits. And again, it's not like everyone kind of makes like, oh, he's a tweener. I think you see a really good football player too. I think you see a guy that uses his hands really well, is physically violent, understands how to shock and shed, has good instincts when he's playing off the ball. Not great instincts, but good instincts. But I do think you see a guy that is a special cut of athlete. And I think that's something that gives you a lot of confidence there. And the idea of him playing for Robert Saleh in that like wide crash 9, like, cause he kind of played a version of that at Ohio State. It's not exactly the same distance. Defense, obviously they're playing a 3-4 base at Ohio State, but he's setting hard edges. He's firing off the field. He's kind of stepping over that foot and really kind of holding that line. I think he's going to be perfect for that system. And again, have the opportunity to rush the passer a little bit.
6'4", 243, 98th percentile height. 96th percentile 40-yard dash for the position, 65th percentile weight, 71st percentile length. There's just not a whole lot of holes in the resume here for Arvell Reese. And I think in any draft, he'd be one of the top edges off the board, projecting him forward. So that's your first 4 picks: Mendoza, Styles, Bailey, and Reese. We'll round out the top 5 here with the New York Giants. And I got to say, this is something I have not seen at all. I don't think this is crazy because the player's good and because this is a team that needs a lot on defense, but I just have not seen this. This mock that we're doing, simulation, has Mansour Delane, the corner from LSU, to the New York Giants at pick number 5. How would you react to that if it happened?
I mean, obviously, I'm a touch surprised because, like you said, it's not something you've seen a whole lot of, right? I was thinking, Caleb Downs in this role because they need that safety, that box player, that chess piece over the defense. Everywhere Harbaugh's gone, he's had a version of that guy. It's been Weddle, it's been Hamilton, right? But this does not surprise me because I was talking to an NFL personnel guy yesterday, and he said this, and I hadn't thought about it, but it's 100% true. So kudos to him, and that's why he does this professionally. But, tackles have attacks and corners have attacks. And corners are really hard to get. And in a draft where he was kind of making the argument that the tail for the cornerback class isn't crazy long, like why not jump up and get the best guy at the position, a position of value, and talk about not having a lot of holes in the resume, Grant. Like I don't know if I've had a cleaner evaluation on anybody in this draft than Mansour Delane. There's questions about the top end speed. He runs a 4.3 at the pro day, right? He's got good length. He's got good size. He plays well in zone. He's got good ball skills. He's got good man skills. Like there's not a lot where you're like, man, this guy's going to struggle at the NFL. So I think this is a really nice fit. And to me, this makes a ton of sense. I think he is I don't know if he's a top 5 player, but he's definitely a top 7 player in this draft. So if you need a corner, let's pop that dude in at that 5 spot for the Giants. And I think that's a really good football player and a high value pick there.
It's funny you say that about, your eval being kind of clean was the word you used.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to the fact that I do think as far as like players that have just been undervalued in this market, we're guilty of it. Everyone's guilty of it. It's Delane is the number 1, and I don't think it's close. Yeah. Like we've had so many conversations about Love or Tate or Reese or Bailey or Styles, the guy that has kind of been the forgotten dude who's just excellent at a massive position of need. Honestly, the biggest position of need maybe on the entire team with wide receiver is Mansour Delane, who happens to be from Silver Spring, Maryland, who happens to have started his career at Virginia Tech. Like there's a lot of like flashing lights here, come green flag type things where you go, this would actually make some sense. And I really believe it all comes back to the narrative, which I think is accurate. Narrative almost seems negative, but this idea that they don't need to draft a corner in the top 10 or spend a bunch of money on a corner because of their new defense. But if you draft one and now you've got 4 guys that are NFL caliber with Amik Robertson being the other, and you've got 3 guys that you really like to start with the kids, the second round picks, Sandra Still, Amos, and now a top 10 pick in Delane, you're in a much better spot at a really important position that costs a ton of money on the market. So I just wanted to get that out there that I do think this is probably the thing that would be the best that we haven't talked about enough.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the best comparing it to other things, but like of the mainstream options, the thing that doesn't get enough run that would make the most sense is Mansour Delane.
I think that's 100% right. And it's not so much that like it's devalued in the defense. I think that's an important variable for sure. But also like I want good football players. I want guys that are going to hit. And this guy feels like he's going to hit, right? Whether we're playing Durante Jones's defense, whether we're playing name your other, he just feels like he's got a lot of flexibility in this regard. So, and again, he's at like, I think that's the main point that no one's been talking about. Tackles go up, corners go up. And I think I think he deserves to be here. So this isn't like a big reach in my opinion. So I think this is a good pick. And if you were here in Washington, I think that's a good football player that's going to make this team a whole lot better.
Do any of his testing comp type stuff, bother you where you look at, the height is pretty average at corner, which is fine, 5'11" and change. But the weight is 27th percentile.
What did he weigh? Because he's listed at like 198, I think is what he's listed on the LSU website. I don't know what he weighed in at his pro day, though.
I've got him at 187.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit dubious of those numbers, especially around the combine, because guys lose weight. So like, for example, Mike Washington weighs in at 223 or whatever, and he played the whole season at 230. Like, there's just guys are losing weight to run fast. So I think he's probably a little bit bigger than that. And so that doesn't really bother me, especially because he plays with great strength.
What about the length? He's like a 13th percentile arms guy. And I know that sounds like a defensive line thing, but when we hear about a corner that's long, we celebrate it. Like, does that hurt him?
I think it does hurt him a little bit, but I think, again, this kind of goes in with, like, you ran well and there's nothing there that's like crazy prohibitive, I guess is what I'd say. Like the film, like his film is really, really good. Like, it's really instinctive. He plays the football well. He's good in man. He's good in zone. He's got a good feel. Like, he tackles well. Like, it's kind of like Caleb Downs-ish. Caleb Downs is a much better football player, don't get me wrong here, but like from a cornerback perspective, it's just the film is very, very safe. Like, there's certain guys you watch, Gerard McCoy, who I think is an absolute beast, by the way, but there's stuff where you're like, what? Like, in zone, why are we doing that? We're running a little hot and cold. Like, with Mansour Lane, I don't see that quite the same way. So I think he's just, again, I'm willing to overlook the arm length thing for him because the speed's good, the instincts are good, and I think that overcomes some of the length limitations potentially.
It's a Monday on Take Command, which means it's a mock draft day 3.0, Logan Paulsen and Grant Paulsen. So we've got you through the top 5 at this point. Mendoza to the Raiders, Styles to the Jets, Bailey to the Cardinals, Reese to the Titans, and Mansour Delane to the Giants, which means only the Browns stand between Washington and the podium. And Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Love are still there if they need weapons. Francis Maui-Noah, the tackle. Reuben Bain Jr., Caleb Downs, Jermod McCoy, Mekhi Lemon among the best of the rest. We will work our way up to Washington's pick as soon as we return. We're also going to get you selections at 71 and 147 today on Mock Draft 3.0. This is Take Command. Welcome back. Take Command, Mock Draft 3.0 on this Monday. We are a week and a half away, just 10 days away from the NFL draft. So Logan, at pick number 6, the Cleveland Browns on the clock, and this dents the opportunity for the Commanders to go skill position and wide receiver a little bit, because this particular simulation that was done has Carnell Tate, the wide receiver from Ohio State, going number 6. Carnell Tate was widely considered one of the 8 to 10 best players in this draft class. Big receiver, 6'2 and a quarter, which is close to 80th percentile. 192 pounds. He runs a 5.40, which is 39th percentile, but not problematic. He's got gigantic hands, 10 plus, 96th percentile. He's one of the only receivers in America that didn't drop a pass last year.
Yeah, very, very solid prospect. And I think in a class, I'm a little surprised here. A couple things. Cleveland, they could go any direction. I think Caleb Downs is on the board for him. I think Carnell Tate. I think they might reach on one of the traits he tackles, Monroe Freeling, Caden Proctor. I think I've heard like kind of whispers about that also, but I'm sure they're all just doing due diligence. I think Tate fits what they want to be and provides an opportunity to provide an insulation around a young quarterback, whether it's Shamar Stewart or someone they draft in 2027. So I'm a little surprised. This feels a tick high for him, but again, he's a good football player, and in a draft where there aren't a lot of high-value offensive skill position players outside of Jeremiah Love, like, this makes a lot of sense for the Cleveland Browns and for, honestly, the Washington Commanders.
Well, and the reason I could see this, and it has been, a popular mock destination, is because the Browns have such a big need at receiver, and these guys do not become available. You were just talking about this at corner, but the top of the market for receiver tells you the whole story. It's basically equaled edge now, dude. I mean, it's $40 million when you get a Chase or a Jefferson.
Unbelievable.
So it's exploded. And so my point is, like, you want Drake London this offseason, you're not getting him. The Falcons are tagging him. You want Chris Olave this offseason, you're not getting him. He's not leaving. The Cowboys would have paid George Pickens all the money and given him the bag, if not for kind of his reputation in Pittsburgh and some of the character concerns and questions. I'm serious. So, they're like, you know what? We're going to make you do it one more time. We got to see it one more time because we're just not sure. But if he was squeaky clean, if he's Terry McLaurin and he has that year at that age, he's making $42 million or whatever
getting paid now. Yeah.
So if you're the Browns, there's only one way to get these guys, really. other than spending $40 million in free agency and they almost never become available, it's to draft them. That's kind of it. And you've got Jerry Jeudy, who had one Pro Bowl year but is wildly inconsistent. You've got like Cedric Tillman, Isaiah Bond, those types of players. Bond's got good speed and could be something. They signed Tylan Wallace from Baltimore and Isaiah Wooden from San Francisco. Like, those are the types of guys that are out there. Look at the receivers Washington signed. They wanted Alec Pierce. They offered him $30 million for a guy that's never caught 50 balls, and it wasn't enough. They couldn't get him. So it's just an insane position and market. It's like paying for gas right now. I'm putting $80 into my stand to try to get to work. It's wild, man. It's wild out here.
I think it's a great point, though. I think that has to factor in and again, Cleveland is notorious for being a very heavily analytics-driven draft process. And so that fits exactly with, I'm sure, what their argument would be in terms of drafting him there.
And that brings us to the Washington Commanders. Strike up the band, play a little Hail to the right now, because they are on the clock. So the draft parties can go crazy. Everyone can gather around the screen. Let's see what the burgundy and gold do. The Commanders at pick 7 have these options, Logan. And in our 2 previous mock drafts, they have ended up with Carnell Tate and Mansour Delane. Neither of those guys is there, so we will have a third different player drafted. But best available, I'm just going to give you the list here in order on the simulator on Pro Football Network as they list it. They've got running back Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. They have offensive tackle Francis Maui-Noa from Miami, obviously not much of a fit for Washington with Connerly on the right side and Tunsil on the left side. Reuben Bain, the edge from Miami. Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State. That's your big 4. And then there's a pretty significant drop-off to, Monroe Freeling, Jermod McCoy with injury history at Tennessee, but a talented corner. And then slot receiver Mekhi Lemon from USC. Is there anybody who particularly stands out there for the Commanders?
I mean, just an embarrassment of riches at the moment. You know what I'm saying? I think you got 2 top 5 players sitting here staring you in the face, and that's got to be pretty exciting. The other name I would put in here, just because I just rewatched a lot of the O-linemen, is Vangaioni from Penn State. Like, that guy is
Paulsen.
Dude, that guy is good at football, man. That guy is good at football. And for the Commanders, you put Francis Maui-Noa in there. I don't think that's the right kind of fit. I think Vangaioni feels like, a left guard that he played left guard at Penn State. But he's got a lower grade than 2 of the guys that you mentioned there for me. Jeremiah Love, Caleb Downs, man. That is, like, I am just in heaven at the moment. And I'm having a hard time making this decision, Grant, because I love Love. But also, maybe my favorite football player in the entire draft is Caleb Downs. And I went back and watched him 2 days ago, and I just like, man, you are so good. And I know you don't have the longest arms. I know you're not the fastest guy, but the production is off the charts. And then I mentioned this on your show, Grant and Danny, yesterday. Like, I was talking to Keim, and Keim's like, who didn't run fast? Reed. And Reed's one of the best safeties of all time. And I hate to make that comparison, but like, I really like Caleb Downs. And so I don't think you can go wrong here, but man, it's a tough decision. So I'd kind of lean to you. If I've just gave you that as like director of college scouting, you're the GM, like, what would you say to that?
Well, I think if I'm debating between Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs, the very reason why I shouldn't take Jeremiah Love exists for Caleb Downs as well.
100%.
And if that's the case, then I just take the better football player. And the better football player for me, and it's very close because I think Downs is terrific, but I have fewer questions about Love, and I would take Jeremiah Love. The other thing I would tell you is, and this is something I'm going to go harder in the paint on Wednesday's episode, I don't think people are talking enough about how badly Washington needs skill position help.
Yeah.
If you look at free agency, which gets an A grade for me, I thought it was fantastic, right? But the vast majority of what they accomplished was all on defense. Mm-hmm. They improved their pass rush to some extent in the short term because a guy like Caleb Chason, Charles Omenihu, those are 1-year deals. But you do get Odafe Owe for the long haul. Dorrance Armstrong's on a 1-year deal. But you brought in Leo Chenal at the second level. You brought in Nick Cross, 1-year deal, obviously, but Amik Robertson, 1-year deal. Like these guys on the back end. So every level of your defense has been improved, and your defensive line significantly so, because don't forget Tim Settle, DJ Davidson in the middle as well. On offense, you brought in Chiga Okonkwo, so tight end's in a really good spot. But that's kind of the list. Mm-hmm. They have not done anything notable at receiver. I know they brought in Brown and they brought in Jefferson, but those are just kind of names, placeholder types for me. at running back similarly. You got a third down running back to replace McNichols, who's still here, by the way. But you brought in Rachaad White, but that's a pass catcher, third down guy. Let me ask you this, Logan. Mm-hmm. If something happens where Terry McLaurin's not available for a couple of weeks in September, it's Jaden Daniels doing the 2024 thing again, hopefully. Yeah. It's like first and Jaden, please help us out. They don't have playmakers that are scary, and you can fix that. Like this would be this offense with Love and without it is almost like if he is who I think he is a crazy different group. It's like night and day. So whether it's wide receiver here or running back here, I actually think it's just more likely and a bigger need than we want to talk about. And I would not be opposed to going running back at 7 and receiver at 71. I think it's that big and that pressing.
No, I'm with you. And again, like I just went back as I'm starting to fill out the big board here, and like Love, I have two elite prospects in the draft right now. One is Jeremiyah Love and the other one is Sonny Styles. So by that logic, if he's the elite blue chip guy, like he should be the pick here for Washington. And I do think that's a good point, man. Like I do think this system, I do think the David Blau, Ben Johnson, Kyle Shanahan play action keeper game system is going to elevate the skill position players. Because I think back to 2012 when I was here, I was the starting tight end for the most of the season, right? We had Pierre Garçon, but we didn't really have like a lot of like alpha players. We had a lot of good role players that filled this thing out in a nice way. So I do think you're going to get a bump from the scheme. But if you talk about a running back that can hit home runs, that can be dynamic in the pass game, that can be a third down weapon, man, like that is really enticing. And I think it just adds a little bit of juice to this group. And I think when you look at teams, like look at the obviously the Detroit Lions, we've talked about Gibbs a lot, like what that did for them. Again, Montgomery was the driver. He was the plow horse for a long time. But the thing that made that offense so terrifying was the explosive back. And I think Love brings that. And so I think that's a great argument by you. And I just think it adds so much to this team and makes you so much. The other thing is it just increases your first and second down efficiency at a really high level and increases your explosive play rate, which are all important factors for the offense.
And there's somebody listening who's very smart and who's correct, by the way, who is saying that is a wasted top 10 value to take a running back, just mathematically, analytically. And you're correct. But again, you're tasking me with him against Downs, essentially. Now, Bain could be the pick and would make the most sense from an analytical, like money standpoint. Yeah. But I'm a little lower on Bain. And if it ends up being that he ends up being Aaron Donald, people can make fun of me for 10 years. I'm not even – it's not that I don't think he's going to be really good. Like, if they take him, I'm excited. There's no one they can take of this crop where I'm going, damn, that's awful. Like, I'll be thrilled. This is a really good football player. I just don't see it from, like, a elite pass rushing standpoint. And I've said this a lot. I think he's going to be more like doing some stuff on the interior eventually at a really high level than like getting off the edge and having 12 sacks per year or whatever. So that's kind of where I'm at on Ruben Bain. If Ruben Bain was Bailey, I'd take Bailey. If you're saying Love, Bailey, or Downs, I'd go Bailey. Love, Reese, or Downs, I'd go Reese. But when you're now asking me, all right, here's the guys at all the positions that you shouldn't take in the top 10. The one I like the most of them is Love. Yeah.
No, I think like he's got my highest
Styles too. Like because this Styles has been my man crush the whole season of the draft season. But if we're back in the same bucket of like, hey, you're taking a guy you shouldn't take positionally, well then take the weapon because they don't have them.
No, I think it's a great point, and I hear like I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were like, "Man, you seem like you're really low on Bain." I like Bain. I like Downs. I like Sonny Styles. I like Francis Mount. I like all these guys, right? Like they're good football players. But we're talking about picking a nit. I gotta make a decision. And right now, of these four guys we just talked about, Love, Francis Mauigoa, Vangaioni, whoever you want to put in there, Bain and Downs, the best one, the guy that checks all the boxes is Love, right? You go down the list, you say, he's fast, boom, the tape's excellent. 2 years in a row, good, right? He's good body weight. Injury history, good, boom, catches the football like a receiver. And then you go down and you say, well, what about Bain? Like the production, while good, is not elite, right? He's done it 4 years in a row in school, but he's never been like a 10-sack guy in school. Everyone says, well, he had 10 sacks last year. He also played 4 more games than everybody else, right? He's got short arms, so there's some questions there. He plays hard. He's got the mentality. I'd be stoked if he's a Commander. But there's more questions. Caleb Downs. I just said he's my favorite football player maybe in the whole class. there's questions about how the game translates to the next level, right? So that's what we're talking about. We just went down the list and said, hey, there's no questions about this guy. There's a couple questions about these guys. That's why he's a blue chip guy. That doesn't mean those other guys aren't going to be good, I think is what I'm just trying to get across here.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. All right, so we're going Jeremiyah Love then at number 7.
Which is pretty exciting. There's probably fireworks going off at the stadium. People are ripping their shirts off. That's going to be an exciting time.
That's a winning pick on the night of the draft. It is sexy. There is a sex appeal to that. That is Sex Panther. It works 60% of the time, every single time. I am steamed all the way up, ordering a jersey for my son that night. Like we are rocking the old new throwbacks, whatever the heck we're doing. We're going burgundies on the road. We're going to whites at home, Gibbs era, Super Bowl. We'll go 2 different Jeremiyah Love jerseys. And the needle is moved, man. I mean, a running back, that is fun stuff. Let's have some fun around these parts. Yeah. But I do want speed. But my point on the McLaurin thing is I think it's most likely that with a full offseason and a real training camp and everything that's going to happen, Terry McLaurin looks like Terry McLaurin this year. Because when he played last year, he was Terry McLaurin quite a bit. That Chiefs game where he got hurt, made a ridiculous touchdown catch. One of the most asinine sideline catches I've ever seen. That was amazing.
Crazy.
Like he was such a dog in that game. But it was just kind of he's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. I think he goes, so-ho-hum, 75 catches, 1096 or 1127 or whatever yards, and give him his 7 touchdowns or whatever. But there is a path to he's over 30. Take it from Washington, not from me. There's a reason that they're skeptical about receivers at that age. He had the injuries last year. What if something pops up? And now, if you haven't drafted a receiver in the first 3 rounds at 7 or 71, you're like in week 2, it's Treylon Burks and Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane. And like everyone goes, well, in 2024, Jaden did it. You don't have to ask him to do it all the time.
Yeah, you don't want him to do it. You don't want that to be the thing, right?
That is a luxury. That should not be the default. It's like we have 4 kids, and my wife's like amazing at taking them all and getting them all dressed and doing things occasionally when I have to be somewhere. I shouldn't just use that all the time as like hey, you can do it. I don't need to be there. Like, no. That's just like she's amazing at being a mom and she makes it look easy. But that should be what we're minoring in, not what we're majoring in. I would like to not make him have to put his cape on all the time. And that's where I would like the weapon. So next, let's get into picks 71 and 147. We'll continue the simulation, see what's there, and make some selections for Washington. Jeremiyah Love to the Commanders. Order your jerseys now. Take command. Logan and Grant with you today. This is Take Command. By the way, I mentioned I was going to get my son a Jeremiyah Love jersey after we just drafted him on this mock draft at number 7. I'm waiting just until it's all official and whatnot, Logan. But last week I told you on one of the pods that my son had like a snake when I came downstairs.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so the snake was in the house for like 2 days in a little cage. And we're like, dude, we got to let him go. But then it was freezing cold because we're doing this thing in Virginia where like one day it's 90 and the next day it's 12. So it was like too cold. And my wife was like, we can't let him back out. Like he's not going to survive or whatever. So we need to wait until it's warm again. So he like stayed in there for like 2 nights, which was, I couldn't sleep just knowing he was in the building. Right. Well, anyway, so then I get home, my son's like devastated. He's like just so sad. And I'm like, what's wrong? His snake's name was Mushroom. He's like, Mushroom died. And I'm like, what? He went to let him back out into the wilderness, and he put him back out in the backyard, but then he put a rock on top of him because he found him under that rock.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, bro, he like nestles under that rock in the dirt. Like he's like the rock's not like laying on him. Yeah. My wife said he just like pressed the rock down on him. And I was like, dude, like, no, this is not how this works. So like she texted me originally. She's like, I'm not going to look, but I think it went bad. And I'm like, what do you mean it went bad? She's like, well, he like pressed a rock down on him. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure it's fine. It's like a snake who lives under rocks. Like I was like the 5-year-old kid. I'm like, it'll be okay. And I guess he went out and checked the next day and the snake was still in the same position. So it didn't end very well, I will say.
Dude, that's a bummer. How old's your son? 5?
He's 5.
Yeah. I mean, that's a common, we got to learn that rocks on top not working, right? You know what I'm saying? It's life lesson there.
He's Mr. Wilderness. I told you, we take him to see the Wildcrats in person. Like,
Love it.
Team animal facts. He was at the zoo yesterday. It's his spring break. So he was at the zoo and he was just like telling everyone all these facts. He's like looking at the lemurs. He's like, oh, the lemur's holding its tail. That means it's aggressive. He's like, if the other lemur doesn't grab its tail, it'll submit. And like the other lemur starts running away and everyone like thought he was like the coolest guy. I'm like,
that's awesome. Look at that guy.
Let's go.
Look at that guy.
But I guess he doesn't know what he needs to know about rocks and snakes just yet. So
yeah, we're working through that. We're
learning to do there. All right, let's get to the final picks we're going to make for Washington here. We're not going to go all the way through the draft because that would be a wacky bit, but we're going to go 71 and 147 here for the Commanders. So their third and then eventually their fifth round picks. So at 71, I simulated through 70. Here's what we're looking at here. I'm going to give you a few positions first, okay,
cool.
of what's there. And then if you want anything else, you can tell me. So best available at center, Connor Lew from Auburn could be a center that you draft. Parker Brailsford from Alabama as well available. At wide receiver, Jacoby Lane from USC. Bryce Lance, who I know you and I both really like, Trey's little brother, from North Dakota State. And Zachariah Branch from Georgia. Also Elijah Surratt from Indiana is available at 95 overall on their big board. Little bit of a reach as far as their rankings, but at 71 could make some sense. We took Jeremiyah Love, so I'm not going to bother with running backs. Defensively, best available corner Chris Johnson from San Diego State.
Ooh, really?
Safety Genesis Smith from Arizona, and corner Julian Neal from Arkansas are your best on the board.
Julian Neal was the last one, or from where is he from? Arkansas.
Arkansas, yeah.
Of those names you just mentioned. Like, I think the fact that Chris Johnson's here, I think he's a borderline first-round player. Like, I know he went to a small school, level of competition isn't great, but when you talk about a lot of the things you talk about with Mansour Delane, like silky smooth footwork, in and out of breaks effortlessly, there's no hitch, tracks the football well, tackles, like there's a great sequence versus Cal where like they're in a short yardage situation. He makes the 2 tackles for loss consecutively to get them off the field. Like, that to me would probably be the guy. I think his ceiling as an NFL player is excellent. I think the reason we're talking about him, I don't think he gets to 71. I think this is a little bit of a pipe dream, but I think he's a really, really good football player and one that would make this defense a lot better.
Yeah, it's weird to me. I mean, these simulations sometimes happen this way and you don't know how to explain it away. But, yeah. I mean, they've got him ranked in their top 45 on their overall big board.
Yeah.
And here he is at 71 for whatever reason. But yeah, he's 6 foot tall, which is above average at corner, obviously. His hands are 93rd percentile. He's got great ball tracking and skills in terms of, getting the football and using those hands. He ran a 40 in the 81st percentile, 4.4. He's a 38-inch vertical jump guy, 78th percentile, 17 reps, very, very strong for his size.
Yeah.
He's not heavy. He's like 180. So that's an 80th percentile at corner bench rep situation. And his broad jump was 77th percentile. So you add the tape to that. I know it's San Diego State, to your point, a little bit light maybe, but there's no chance he's there. But if he is, for the purposes of what we're doing, you want to snag him?
That would be my pick here for sure. And I get the other guy just to kind of mention, just to talk about, he's the pick, but just to talk about some of the other guys there, like Bradsford, the center from Alabama, really small guy, 6'2", like 290 pounds, can absolutely fly. Like really, really twitchy. Reminds me a little bit like Jason Kelsey. There are some kind of limitations at the point of attack with him, but if you wanted a really twitched up, dexterous guy, interesting selection there. Zachariah Branch to me is another guy just to mention. We've had some people ask some questions about him. Really, really like elite explosive traits. I mean, when you watch him, he reminds me a little bit just in terms of watching at the college game of like Tyreek Hill. Like his ability to catch the football, make people miss, outrun angles is unique. I think the question I have with him is like, can you play down the field? So many of his targets are like screens, quick slants, hitches, stuff where they're getting the ball in his hands quickly. A lot of that has to do with the quarterback situation. We talked about that with Oscar Delp. But I just wonder if you can be a deep threat receiver because you were like, he's like 5'8" or something. He's 5'9". He's not a big man, but just an explosive football player. I think adds a lot as a returner in the kickoff game and in the punt return game. But very interesting name to bring up. I think there are some limitations to him and things that we haven't seen on film. Does get open down the field, which is important. But again, in terms of tracking the football, not a lot going on down there.
Zachariah Branch, first 2 years in college at USC, and then finished at Georgia. Went from 31 catches to 47 catches to exploding in the SEC for 81 grabs, a little over 800 yards and 6 touchdowns in his final collegiate season. All right, that brings us to pick 147 in round 5 here for Washington, Logan. And I've actually got a trade offer that came in for this pick. And I think this is a no-brainer, honestly, but I want to let you decide. I'm advocating that we take it. The offer is to move down 8 spots to 155, and then we pick up 195.
Let's do it. We need picks. We need players.
I mean, this late in the game, why not?
So,
right?
I guess I should ask before we go, who's on the board would be a good question, but probably.
Yeah. So here's who went, because I accepted the offer. So the guys that were there that aren't anymore are Joe Royer, tight end, Cincinnati, Kevin Coleman, wide receiver, Missouri, Devin Moore, corner, Florida.
He would have been an interesting one. He's an interesting guy. Like, just real quick to mention him, he's big. He's 6'3", he's 200 pounds. Was one of the best freshmen in the country when he was his freshman year, which was 2 years ago. Coming off an injury, apparently a great worker, but is really traitsy, ran well at the pro day. Like, is one of those guys that is going to probably be an NFL starting cornerback. But because of the injury, because of the lack of production last year, is just a little bit farther down on most teams' boards.
His size, 6'3" and 200. I mean, that is, you salivate
he's a big
about
dude.
that. 4'5", 40, so, not going to be a burner, but that's more of that length and physical.
But apparently, so word on the street is with that, like, again, just one of these weird things you pick up as you're doing all this draft research.
Yeah.
Is he was testing, or the year prior he tested at a 4.3, but had an adductor injury that had not fully recovered. So he ran with like a pulled adductor basically, and asked me why he did that. I have no idea, but there are official times of him running fast. So I just kind of wondered how that ends up playing out for him.
That sounds like a made-up thing in your body, an adductor. Are you sure that's not from an engine in a car?
Yeah. No, it's a real thing. It's like your groin. Some people call it your groin. Like that.
I've heard of a groin. I'm familiar with that. Yeah. So he has a groin.
Yeah, he has a groin.
Okay.
Like, according to the Shanahan logic of injury, he's got a leg. Yeah.
Right. That's always my favorite. It's like, he's got an elbow. Yeah. Like, actually, he's got 2 of them. What else can you tell me? But yeah, he has an adductor. Good for him. I'm going to have to Google that term. There's probably a way to use that that's kind of funny in the future. All right, so those are the players that went in the meantime. So now we're at 155.
Okay.
Your best available are, I get a little bit steamed here. We have not taken a receiver. Malachi Fields from Notre Dame is sitting there.
Whoa.
It's a little value play. That's a value play in the 5th round. Yeah. Landon Robinson, D-tackle, Navy. Zane Durant, D-tackle, Penn State. Nick Singleton, running back, Penn State. Good little player. Jordan Hudson, wide receiver, SMU. Jake Slaughter, center from Florida. And
he's a stud.
Dalen Everett, corner from Georgia.
Wow. Dude, this is in the 5th round? Man, we're living like kings, Grant. Oh,
good.
Goodness. I have a 3rd round grade, if I remember correctly, on Jake Slater, however you say his name, from Florida. He's like maybe my favorite center in the class. Big dude, smart, not super twitchy, but like has a good feel for angles and second level stuff. And then Malachi Fields, man, like I don't think he goes this low, honestly. I think he's like a 3rd or 4th round player. But if he does take a little bit of a slide, I think he's a big body receiver with great ball skills who could develop into a true 2. Right. And there's a little bit of a development curve there. He's not the fastest guy in the whole world, but I think he's physical. I think he's competitive. I think he's a former quarterback. He's obviously very smart when he plays. Like, that is a really interesting prospect there. And then obviously the other guy to mention there is Dalen Everett from Georgia. Big dude. I think he's like 6'1.5", 6'2", 205, 210 pounds, like ran a 4.3 at the combine. Is a little stiff in transitions, and running to posts, like a little stiff with the reactive stuff. But if you talk about a ball of clay, like, that's interesting. But I'd probably lean towards the center or towards the receiver in this case.
Slaughter's a little lean, 303 pounds, center position. So it's
most. I will say most centers in this class are a little bit undersized. Like, they're, Bradsford's like under 290 pounds. Obviously, Slaughter's like in that 303, 305 type range. Connor Liu, there's some stuff where he's in the 305 type range as well. The kid from Iowa, Logan Boo Logan, whatever his name is 292 pounds. He's a really good football player as well. But that's kind of the mold of the center in this class.
Logan Jones, the center from Iowa. All right, so Logan Paulsen, not Logan Jones. 155 for Washington. You're taking Jake Slaughter, the center from Florida. That's what you're doing?
I think it's either him or Malachi Fields. I think they're very similar in terms of grade for me. And I do think there's some upside play there from an athleticism movement standpoint, right? So you go corner, right, with Chris Johnson. You go running back. You get a guy, an upside play at receiver in the 5th round. I mean, that seems like a pretty good deal there, unless you feel like the offensive line, the center, is a more pressing need.
You're O-line Paulsen. I'm weapons Paulsen. I like weapons.
I've told this story a million times. I love big, long, traitsy wide receivers. I have a really hard, and even like they hurt me. They hurt me all the time. It stings. Ow, I don't like that. They hurt me. It's like a bad relationship. But I'm not gonna get off of form now. I'm going Malachi Fields here.
Yeah, 6'4", 222. You're from Charlottesville, Virginia. Come on down, sweetheart. Yeah. You are a Washington Commander. Malachi Fields. I am so steamed up. I'm just taking all of Notre Dame's weapons right now. This is my draft, baby. This was not O-line Paulsen. This was the weapons Paulsen day, boys and girls.
Yeah, we got a lot more dynamic, a lot more athletic. I think the Chris Johnson one, that's like real sneaky there at 71. Like, that's an excellent pick. And then Malachi Fields, again, there are some limitations to him, but I do think he could project to a nice 2 in the league.
Yeah, I think that our getting Chris Johnson is like wacky season, like nonsense. Yeah. However, in a world where Washington comes out of this thing with Jeremiyah Love, Chris Johnson, and Malachi Fields at 771 and 155, I mean, when your draft show ends and my draft show ends on 2 different places, we're meeting at a random diner at 2 a.m.
Yeah, we
are pummeling pancakes and waffles.
Yeah, you are. I'm probably going to get some chicken. But yeah, like maybe one waffle. No,
we're going to have a competition to see who can eat the most French toast. French toast is super healthy for you. It's got eggs.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah. Right? Isn't that
super healthy. That's what people say. Super healthy.
Absolutely. All right, there you go. Mock Draft 3.0. Why even have a draft? Let's just stick with this one. Send it into Adam Peters. Get it done. We will be back a little bit later in the week. Big Commanders news looms. Remember, the jerseys, the new uniforms are dropping on Wednesday, so we'll have a reaction pod to that at some point. And we're going to do our mock entire first round between now and the draft, which is just 10 days away. It's getting closer and closer. Thanks to producer Evan. For Logan, I'm Grant. Saying so long.